I call to order the meeting of the Lake Mills City Council for June 2nd, 2020. Can I get the roll call, please?
Mr. Fields?
Mr. Fields here.
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Foster here.
Mr. Fritsch?
Mr. Fritsch here.
Ms. Schmidt?
Ms. Schmidt here.
And Mrs. Fritsch previously informed staff that she'd be unavailable for this evening's meeting.
Okay, thank you. For those that can rise, rise with me and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next item is correction and or approval of the City Council meeting minutes of May 19th, 2020. Do we have any correction, or I will entertain a motion of adoption?
Ms. Schmidt approves or moves to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Fields, second.
Thank you. We have it moved and seconded. We'll call the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Foster, aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Mr. Fritsch recuses himself.
Ms. Schmidt?
Ms. Schmidt, aye.
Mr. Fields?
Mr. Fields, aye.
Motion passed 3-0.
All right, thank you. Item 4, correspondence. Whoever would like to start, and if you have something, go ahead and start.
I would like to say that I attended the Jefferson County and Walworth County COVID-19 testing down at UW-Whitewater. I want to say it was well organized. It was relatively fast, almost painless except for a little tickle in the nose. And I would hope that the counties would consider doing more of this in the near future. I think it was well worthwhile, and I got notified of the results in 3 days. So I was very, very pleased with it. And also I got numerous letters and emails about the Tyranina Park activities and so on in there.
All right.
Which
Thank
I'm
you
sure
very
a lot
much.
of you got.
Was that all, Mr. Fritsch? I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you have anything? Mr. Fields?
Yes. Couple items. I did meet with a group from the Sandy Beach Mobile Home Park Association. They want to just talk through some of what our plans were that are on the website. We just kind of walked through them. I met with Scott, Jim, Doug, and Jeff down there. Had a good meeting with them. Also received a letter from John, I think it's Eichel from Enbridge, just introducing himself as a new communication relations specialist. And then also, like Mr. Fritsch said, I received a number of emails on the Tyrannia Park bike trails and different people having opinions for and against the bike trail system out there. That's all I have.
Thank you. Miss Vicky?
Ms. Schmidt had a phone call today about the restrooms in our parks and whether or not they're ever going to be open, as well as about dogs that are running at large. And I also received numerous emails about the Tyranina bike trail issues on both sides, as well as the Enbridge letter.
All right, thank you. And I received some of those same letters and some of the emails concerning the folks, both for and against the trails down in the park, and that is one item on our agenda tonight to do some discussion on that. Yeah, if there's nothing else, I guess we can move on to the next section. We are going to move on to questions and public comment. The public is encouraged to address the council at this time regarding items on the agenda. Public comment may also be made at this time on items that are not on the agenda if you have registered with the city clerk before the meeting has been called to order. The state's open meeting law discourages action by the council on items not listed on the agenda. Please keep your comments limited to 3 minutes and state your name and address when starting your comments, and fill out the sign-in sheet provided. And for those that are on name, please type your name and address into the chat feature. We'll start with the folks that are here in the audience. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in public comment?
Regarding the date, is that now, or is that when we get?
You can go ahead and talk about it right now if you'd like to.
Well, Mike, while they're doing that, could you mute your mic?
Maybe.
Hi, my name's Paul Albrecht, and I live in Mulberry Street here in Lake Mills. And I'm here regarding opening up the restrooms, specifically at a couple of the beaches in town. I was at each one of the beaches a couple times this week and was a little shocked that the restrooms weren't open. I got on your website and did some reading, and I understand why they're not open because of the COVID and the CDC. But I was down at Sandy Beach less than an hour ago, and there was a lot of people at the beach today. Lots of kids, lots of families, beautiful day to be at the beach, and without a restroom, I can only imagine what's going on in the water. You're always going to get some of that, but this is serious. We need to open up the restrooms. Who cares what the CDC says at this time, or shut down the beach? That's my opinion, obviously. I don't know what else to say. It's serious. We need to have some restrooms down there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Steve, do we have anybody online that wishes to speak?
We have a Kristen Rosecki. Roski, are you interested in speaking? Apparently not.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you, Mr. Albrecht. Thank you. Okay, that moves us on to the city manager's report. Steve?
I wanted to start out by saying I got an email that most of you got about the Tyranita bike trails from Mrs. Curler. And I sent that to Misty to put in the public record. I'm assuming that you guys are all doing the same with all your emails, forwarding them to Misty. We have been working on the reopening. Actually, City Hall reopened Monday. The front doors have been open. There are specific routes in, and we've set up practices to interact with the public. Most of our parks have been open, but the restroom facilities have not. We're waiting to see what you do tonight, and then we'll put that out. We have allowed the playground equipment to be used. We took those signs off on May 11th, I think. And so we're moving forward with that. South Main Street is moving along quite well, even with the rain that's been going on. They've had quite a few weather-related days already, and they're still ahead of schedule. So they will definitely as of now, be done by the construction date. They were actually preparing to pour the curb on the west side, doing several of the side streets. We've been in discussions with them about the repair of Pinnacle Drive, and what it'll take to get that taken care of. Dwayne's been mainly handling that for us, but we have pretty much agreement in place. We just have to finalize some of the numbers. I-94 closures have been ongoing. There was supposed to be a closure tonight. As I understand, it was pulled because of the severe thunderstorms that are on for tonight. But you can anticipate that there will be more closures of the ramps in the coming weeks. Sandy Beach Boat Launch, we actually got notice that the first $242,000 is being sent to us. We're still waiting for that final tribal approval. One tribe up in Florence County still has to sign off. But everything else is complete and ready to go. I don't know if you heard, but the Crawfish Junction food truck was out at the beach this weekend. They did very well. They're very pleased. We have had 3 other food trucks and another vendor apply, and so we're reviewing those. It may come in for a few additional changes, but it looks like we should have some good options out there. As you know, we've been released from our consent order on the lead service laterals. We're also down to the required 20 tests per year. And we just entered our testing period, so they're going to start testing. So people who have lead service laterals that are still in our testing program will probably be contacted shortly. Radium, everything's been accepted and in place. We're just waiting for the final information on what's going on with the after period. So after it's been up and running for a certain amount of time, they'll run another test just to make sure that everything's working fine. AMI meters, are the electric meters which are outside, are starting to be reinstalled again. The ones that are inside, which are the water ones, we're starting to gear up to do that. They are putting special precautions in place for the COVID issues, so that'll keep us busy. Corrosion control, as you know, we've been running that corrosion control test to determine which chemical worked the best at reducing lead. Actually, it ends up that the one we had was still the best. Although for the first 2 months, it looked like the one we had was the best. Then for about a month, it looked like the 100% orthophosphate was the best. And now it's slid back to the one that we have. And so they've kind of recommended that we continue to test. So we'll probably do that. As you know, the water rate was held off, and we are probably going to see that start at the end of July. Cross connections, all the businesses and multifamilies should have received a letter about cross connection requirements. This is a DNR requirement. We are required to make sure that everybody has a cross connection every so often, a cross connection inspection. And that report gets submitted to the DNR, and we don't want to end up on another consent order. We have submitted our wastewater treatment plant facilities report, and that's a report that we've been working on, working up to our new license for 2023. And we have to study a number of items. So a couple of years ago, it was how the thermal condition of the creek. This most recent one was on the facilities in the plant and their condition. And I'm pretty sure that, and the timeline for replacing them, I'm pretty sure that pretty soon we'll start seeing a lot of chemical information, and our new permit will have tighter restrictions on what we can do in the creek. Uh, we had an electric billing audit. We're pretty much done with that. They're still reviewing it. We haven't heard the final on that, but it's probably pretty standard. The subdivision on the south side, which is Tiger Point subdivision, is tied to Mud Lake Road. The Mud Lake Road construction has actually started. So you'll notice that that County Highway A down to Mud Lake Road has been milled, and then they'll probably start on Mud Lake Road. There was some tree work done down there. The developers agreement is in place. And the timeline for that completion is as noted in the contracts. It's still being done this year. So it should be done by the end of August. And 1204 South Main Street, we're still working on all the issues related to that, but one of them is on the agenda tonight, so I won't go into that in depth. And that's it.
All right. So I had a question. Is this the same company that's doing the paving this year that did it last year?
Yes. Lalonde is the general contractor. And you mean on South Main Street, right?
Yeah, South Main, yes.
Yes, Lalonde is the same contractor. He's the prime contractor, the general. And then he has several subs. One of them is A1, who does all the underground work and the base preparation. So A1 did the water and the sewer and the stormwater, and then they prepared they dug out the base and laid down all the new material for the concrete to be poured on. Then there's, the street lighting contractor and the grading and seeding contractor, but Lalonde did all the paving. So curb and gutter, the lanes, the sidewalks, they did all that work.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Does anybody else have any questions? Sound of silence. So we'll move on from there. Thank you, Steve. Oh, shoot. I read the wrong one. We do have a public hearing tonight. Who's this on to item 8? Council business. 8A is a public hearing. So we will open the public hearing at this time. And I don't know if we have anybody to talk on this. Do you want to read the public notice for me, Misty?
Notice of public hearing, Sidewalk Café licenses. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the City of Lake Mills City Code, Chapter 548, that Doyle's Dogs, 109 West Lake Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, 53551, has made application for renewal of a Sidewalk Café license in the City of Lake Mills for the period ending June 30th, 2021, the approval of which is now pending. Public comment will be received by the City Council at a meeting to be held Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Building Council Chambers, 200 Water Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, dated this 21st day of May, 2020.
Thank you very much. So we are now in a public hearing, and we are open for comments from the public, if there are any. Steve, Mr. Wilkie, it looks like at least one other person jumped in, right?
Christian is still there. I don't know if they have any comment. They haven't said anything.
Yeah, I'm
Or
seeing a couple other folks in there too.
um,
But silence.
I think all the other ones are us, Mike.
You think so?
Rob's on. Yeah, Rob and
Oh, there he
Betsy.
is.
And,
I see him now.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Okay.
Dwayne's on.
Hey, Dwayne. Okay, well, with that then, we will close the public hearing. Lack of input from the public. And we will move on to item 8B. And I was told with the miscellaneous licenses, we can read both of them together for the cigarette license for Crawfish and the liquor license renewal based on agent change from Derek Nelson. Does anybody have any concerns with us reading those and putting those as one item? Okay. Misty, let's make this happen.
We've got two miscellaneous licenses, the cigarette license, which is new for Crawfish Junction, and liquor license renewal and agent change for the Hub, Derek Nelson.
So I will entertain a motion of either adoption or denial on this item covering both of these two issues.
Doug, you
Mr.
need to turn your
Fields.
mic
I
on.
move,
I
There you
move
go.
adoption of miscellaneous licenses, one and cigarette license for Crawfish Junction, and liquor license renewal and agent change for the Hub, Derek Nelson.
We'll make it known to the record that that was Mr. Fritsch making that motion. Is there a
Vicky
second?
Schmidt, second.
Thank you, Vicky. We have it moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Fritsch,
Aye.
Ms. Schmidt,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Mr. Fields, aye.
Mr. Foster,
Mr. Foster, aye.
motion passed 4-0.
All right, moves us on to item 8C, our consent agenda. Once again, we'll go back to Misty.
Tonight's consent agenda has liquor license renewals, weight measures license renewals, cigarette license renewals, mobile home park license renewals, sidewalk cafe license renewals, and well operators license renewals.
I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Vicky Schmidt moves adoption of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Vicky. Is there a second?
Mr. Fields, second.
And then a second by Mr. Fields. Is there any discussion?
No discussion with the
Oh,
consent agenda.
you're right. Thank you. We will call roll call vote then, please.
Ms. Schmidt,
Ms. Schmidt, aye.
Mr. Fields,
Mr. Fields, aye.
Mr. Foster,
Mr. Foster, aye.
Mr. Fritsch,
Mr. Fritsch, aye.
motion passed 4-0.
Thank you. That brings us to item D, discussion decision on opening of the Parks restroom. And we do have a motion on that. If you would read the title for me, please.
City Council Motion 20-6-1-1, authorizing the opening of restrooms at city parks.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on motion 20-6-1-1.
Vicky Schmidt moves
Mr.
adoption
Fields, so
of,
moved.
So I got Vicky first. Vicky's got the motion.
I'll second, Mr. Fields.
Okay, thank you, Steve. All right, now we can discuss this. Steve, do you want to talk on this, Mr. Wilkie?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
I have Rob on tonight too.
Okay,
And we as a staff have been discussing the issue, and Rob was, with the beaches open, we really need to start thinking about opening the restrooms, but we don't have the staff to meet the CDC requirements for sanitizing every 2 hours. So there was some debate about the topic. One was that we just we clean it once a day, which is historical, and then we post it, use at your own risk. We only clean once a day. There was another option that we threw out, and that was to hire additional staff to clean every 2 hours. There are some dollars available through the state and federal government to be able to reimburse the city for COVID-related expenses. It's about almost $200,000 already designated for the city of Lake Mills through one fund or the other. To date, we have spent about $5,000, maybe $6,000 that would apply. The only problem is that historically, we don't always, we're kind of at the back end of getting the money. And so our position was, and even if we did, it would be hard to get the staff to do it. We've always historically had problems being able to hire enough people to maintain the parks as it was, much less adding for a crew just to clean bathrooms. Not a very popular item. And, we've already had several members say that they weren't interested in cleaning the bathrooms because they were high risk. And so the debate is, does the council want to go with hiring a crew? Do they want to just post a sign, or do they want to leave them closed? The motion is to open them with signage that says at your own risk. Is there anything you want to add, Rob or Dan?
Yeah, I learned tonight, I talked to an individual that works for the state of Wisconsin. State of Wisconsin parks, bathrooms have been closed. Most other communities' bathrooms are closed. State of Wisconsin, my understanding is going to be opening tomorrow with the stipulation of they're doing one cleaning a day on those. I haven't read anything. I just talked to an individual who runs one of their bigger parks today.
This is Dan. My understanding is that that's the route that the county is taking, and that's a pretty kind of uniform application throughout the state. That the CDC guidelines are pretty burdensome and really tough to complete. And a lot of municipalities, counties, and cities are going this route. One comprehensive cleaning per day, and then signage that just says use at your own risk. These are only being cleaned once a day. So I think that's a reasonable meeting ground. It's definitely a need. You heard Mr. Albrecht earlier today. I've heard similar comments from the community, and I think this is a reasonable move forward. The CDC guidelines are very difficult to really meet. So that's my piece on it.
Can I ask what our liability is?
Well, I'd start with qualified immunity. I don't believe that there's a real high likelihood of liability if someone were to contract the COVID-19 virus from some of our facilities. If we were making certain guarantees that they could use it without risk, that they would contract COVID, perhaps then. But the steps that we're taking are reasonable in nature, and with qualified governmental immunity in place, I don't think there's a high likelihood that we see claims, or if we do see claims, that we are ultimately liable for somebody contracting this disease on our park or in our facilities. I'd say it's really close to zero. There's not a high likelihood at all.
Yeah, it would be awfully hard to prove. Where
It's a number of tenuous steps, correct?
Yeah. Now we're thinking about the cleaning being at night at closing or in the morning before opening?
Rob and Steve can probably let you know about that. I've heard both. I think right now everybody's leaning towards once in the morning.
We've always done morning cleanings. The restrooms are open 24/7.
Okay. No, I'm fine with that. Mornings are probably the better time to do it. And we do keep them stocked with soap and stuff like that, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other comments? I like the idea of getting them open. We're doing that here in this building. We have the signs up here in the city hall that says use them at your own risk. We're only cleaning them once a day, and I think they need to be open. But finding the people that are going to clean and be diligent enough to clean it, and then for us to be able to pay them and make sure we don't go into debt paying these folks might be a harder thing to swallow right now. As long as we can keep up with our one cleaning a day and we post what we're going to post, I think we will be good. Anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to have them call a roll call vote on the motion to adopt. Okay, please call a roll call.
Mr. Fields?
Mr. Fields, aye.
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Foster, aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Oh, you're muted still, Mr. Fritsch.
Mr. Fritsch, aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Ms. Schmidt, aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
All right, thank you. Item 8E, discussion decision on 1204 South Main Street, property sales strategy. Do we have them? Is there a motion on this?
No, there's not a motion.
not.
It's pretty wide open, and I don't know that we need to make a decision tonight. You can. We listed it that way on the agenda, but we are going to be opening the bids on June 11th. They will be coming back to the council. We are going to hold an in-person council meeting on the 16th, and we will have an executive session. What I wanted to go over was if there was any additional items that you felt you would want in that executive session to speed the process up. At least one person who has submitted the bid so far was looking at it and saying, the state is taking a long time to get their official reviews of building plans done. He says, I'd like to get it in and have it ready to go so that I can start construction in the fall and work on it over the winter. And so he was hoping that we could make the process as short as possible. And I was like, okay, at least I will tonight have a conversation with you to gear up for what to expect at the next council meeting. As far as, do you want to see site plans, or do you just want to see real estate sales items? Are you looking for any other specific type of information on the use or the dollar values? We have collected appraisals, and we will have CSMs ready. So is there anything else that anybody wants?
See, my thoughts are just the minimums that we need. I don't really think while we may want to look at what type of business or thing that they want to put in there, I'm just not sure that's proper for us to discuss it. That's why we have the plans commission and zoning to manage that type of stuff. So as long as we get to see who's looking at buying it and the CSM and that type of information, unless anybody disagrees with me.
Well, I'd like to have the documents not necessarily available for use if we need it in a discussion.
Okay. we have zoning and that type of stuff in place, but it's flexible. It's got a lot of uses that, as you noted in some of the discussions at the TID meetings, the we have in the past, and when we did the old city hall, we had a very strict set of items that we wanted them to follow. In this case, it might not be there's no existing building. It's pretty much a vacant site. But that you can ask for more information and actually make a decision based on that, because you are the selling entity. So I'll ask, depending on how many bids we have, I'll ask for at least a site plan to go along with the other information.
Okay. Yeah, I look at it the other way. If we start looking at it with too many different angles, what type of situation do we put ourselves in for litigation if we pick one over the other? And that would be something I would ask Mr. Drescher, if that would even cause us an issue if somebody says we didn't pick their proposal because we didn't want their business there. I don't know what we would.
No, I think that's a very fair point. It's really easy to make a decision when it's just the dollars, one party offers X, the other party offers Y. Y is a better offer. Your decision is made. That keeps it simple and within the frame. As you expand out, I'm not saying that you can't. There's a bigger purpose here, but as you expand out, I would think that you raise the level of, a potential claim.
Okay.
I see cities do this all the time, and we've done it here in Lake Mills before. I don't see any issue with being able to review it and even make the full decision on what was actually being built rather than the dollar offer. Sure. But that's something I want to be at that meeting and make sure that I cover what you guys want, because based on the information that I have, the sooner we get this done, the better the developers are going to be in relationship into moving into the winter.
Sure. Well, I think with what I said and what Mr. Fritsch asked for, does that give you enough to know what we're looking for? Does anybody help? Vicki or Steve, do you have anything else that you'd like to add to that?
I'm good.
Vicki probably has the most experience with it.
Is this in a TIF district?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I think it's perfectly valid to want to know how it's going to be developed, because it's going to have some kind of an impact on TID dollars. So I think that at least some kind of disclosure ought to be made.
Yeah, I think that's what Mr. Fritsch was asking for. So it sounds like Steve is going to ask for that also for us.
If they come back and ask for TID dollars after they've purchased it, we will enter into a developer's agreement. There will be a much heavier review of it at that time. But I agree with Vicki that when you're in a TID district and you're the seller of the real estate, there are a lot of things that you can reach for. Just because we're a municipality doesn't take some of our rights away on being able to sell the property for what we believe is in the public interest. So anyways. Okay. All right, I will get that information and I will make sure that I have it ready for the next meeting.
All right. Thanks for the input, everybody. We will move on to the next item. Item 8F, discussion decision on acceptance of donations from Horizon Manufacturing Group for planters. And let me get to the right one here. There is a motion on that. Would you please read the motion, please? The title.
City Council Motion 20-6-1-2, accepting the donation from Horizon Manufacturing Group of planters for use at the municipal building.
Okay, I will entertain motion for this motion 20-6-1-2. Well, I will move for adoption of motion 20-6-1-2. This is Mr. Foster making this motion.
Mr. Fields, I'll second.
All right. Get a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? I guess we can get Steve to fill us in a little bit more than what we had in his memo, if there is anything else. Those are the planters that are sitting outside right now, right?
They are.
Yeah.
I came in one morning and Travis was filling them. And it said that they were donated on it. And historically, when we've taken donations, we generally run it through the council. And that the people who donated understand that we can move them around or not use them if it's in the, becomes an issue at City Hall. I don't have any problem with them there. I don't think Rob does. I just want to make sure that we have gone through the process and that you guys are aware of what's going on and that the donator understands what conditions they're donated under.
All right. Rob, do you have anything that you want to?
Yeah, Scott actually offered a lot more. He offered them for the fire department, the library. Both of them turned it down, and I apologize. I kind of jumped the gun. I thought it was a great offer that they gave us. I thought they looked really nice. So Scott brought them over. We set them out, and then ultimately now we're discussing it. So I apologize if I kind of jumped the gun on this one. But here we are today.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, they caught my eye when I came in earlier today. I looked at them and I said, I don't remember these sitting here, and I read the inscription. They do look nice. They are, I guess, like a urn shape, and they are made out of that, recycled plastic, so they'll probably be almost indestructible for quite a few years. But that'd just be another thing on the parks team to keep up. And if you don't think there's an issue with it.
Those planters are actually self-waterers. They hold water inside them and slowly release it. I also have an individual that I'm meeting with tomorrow that's willing to take care of those planters, plant them and maintain them from the flower bed volunteers.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes that easier, at least for 1 year, as long as they're folks willing to step up later on. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add to this conversation? Positive, negative, whatever it is. Mighty quiet. Crickets. All right. Well, that tells me we're ready for a vote on this. Please call the roll call vote, please.
Mr. Foster?
Mr. Foster, aye.
Mr. Fritsch?
Mr. Fritsch, aye.
Ms. Schmidt?
Ms. Schmidt, aye.
Mr. Fields?
Mr. Fields, aye.
Motion passed 4-0.
All right, thank you. Item 9, recommendation for future agendas. One thing that we do have on there will be the executive session next meeting, so we will have a closed session. And what that probably means is you may want to be here in the building for the regular meeting. So if that means we have to social distance inside the room here and people wear masks to make everybody comfortable, that's all well and good. Steve, do you have anything else? Does anybody else have anything that should go on the agenda?
We probably have a pretty light agenda, but I'm sure there'll be a couple items that'll come up. The executive session will probably be longer than maybe the meeting because we have several claims and the land and then the performance review. So I can't think of anything else off the top of my head for the regular meeting, but I'm sure there'll be something. I would prefer that everybody come to the council chambers for both meetings, and that we just make sure that we spread out far enough. And we will not move to the conference room for the executive session. We will stay in the council chambers, so we'll have to clear the council chambers.
Well, that makes sense.
Logistically speaking, Steve, are you still planning on running the meeting live on 8x8, even though all the council members will be here? For the public
No,
sake?
I think we'll do it the same as we've always used to do it, where Dave just records it and live streams it.
So public to appear and be a part of the meeting would have to come in person.
They would.
Very good.
Unless we had enough headphones that we could headphone off everybody. I just don't know if that's an option. But
I
Well,
would
when-
request a masking.
yeah, yep,
Yeah, I won't. I have no problem with that. I have several.
I think we can all comply with that just to make everybody feel comfortable. All right. Unless you folks have anything else. That doesn't sound like it, so that means we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.